Briefcase Crimes contains graphic depictions of violent acts, bad jokes, and loud dog noises. It's not intended for all audiences, and listener discretion is advised. Welcome, listeners, to Briefcase Crimes. I'm Hannah, and I'm full of terrifying facts about horrific events.
I'm Liz, and I'm full of morbid curiosity.
Elizabeth.
Yes, Hannah.
I don't think you're ready for today's story.
You say that every week.
I know, but it's like, I'm never going to find a murder story that isn't, like, horrible.
Well, that's kind of the whole point.
But this one's, like, it's bad. This one's bad.
I don't know. We've had a couple real bad ones lately.
Yeah.
I mean, is it worse than Carl Tanzler?
Well, that wasn't a murder story, though. That was just I don't even know how to describe that. That was a body snatching.
Ugh.
That was an unauthorized embalming. I mean, it's bad in its own way.
Okay.
We'll get into it.
All right.
This is an older crime. I mean, all of our stuff is old, but it's it's one of the older ones that we deal with. Mm-hmm. It's the beginning of the 20th century. We're in 1924.
Okay.
So this one is pretty well known. This one has been written about and made into movies and stuff. So if you're listening, you might have heard about this one already. But this is our version of it. I'm sure Elizabeth hasn't.
I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe. You surprise me.
Yeah, because, I might know of it, but that doesn't mean I know anything really about it.
Mm-hmm. So our story begins in May of 1924.
Summertime or springtime.
Yeah, we're getting into summer. Things are starting to get warm. We're in Indiana, the state. Okay. I say that because it's around in Pennsylvania. There's an Indiana, the town, so you have to
specify.
Yeah, I'm talking about the state. There's a man named Tony Mink, and he on that day, the May evening, he was trying to get to a watch repair shop before it closed. And as he was going, I always say about like don't jog and don't walk your dog, because those are like the two ways to find dead bodies.
Yeah.
Poor Tony Mink was just trying to go get his watch fixed.
Aww.
And he noticed that there was something in a like drainage ditch, and he was like, "Oh, whatever. I'll deal with that later. I don't know what that is, but I don't really have time to investigate because I need to go get my watch fixed."
Right.
But apparently, like, whatever he saw, he kept thinking about it. So he finally was like, "Fine, I'll go look." Whatever it was enough to like arrest his progress toward the watch shop.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes back and he finds a body.
I like how you said that. I'm not quite sure.
I just can't imagine finding a body. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to. I don't want to be involved in any of that. It's like those kids, there were a group of kids on TikTok who were doing the, like, Randonautica stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have that app, and it scares me.
I've never done it. I have a friend, Mel, who actually has her own true crime podcast. Hi, everyone. Editing Hannah here. I just wanted to take a minute and let everyone know that Mel's podcast is called The Mysterious Missing and Murdered. If you like our podcast, you're sure to love theirs. She and Matt are currently on a hiatus right now, but they will be back soon. So if you want to check them out, they're at www.mysterypodcast.com. Mel does the randonauting, and it's taken her to some really cool places. Like, she found, like, a whole stand of local honey nearby.
Cute.
Like, it took her there. Like,
well, the whole thing behind it is you're supposed to, like, manifest what you want with your intentions. So, like, who knows what those kids, like, Because that's the thing. It's supposed to, like, work with the energies of the universe or whatever.
Then what the heck? Because Mel keeps trying to get Bigfoot.
Oh, hey, maybe.
So she's also documenting that on her TikTok, trying to find Bigfoot.
Yeah.
With Randonautica.
Oh, that's funny. I'm going to have to follow her. You'll have to send it to me.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. No, but the thing we're referring to is a group of kids, I believe in Seattle. They were using the app, and they found a suitcase on the, like, had washed up or was on the side of a rocky beach kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they opened it, and it just stunk.
It was, like, by a bridge or something.
Yeah, so they called the cops. And it was a body, like, they found a body. And they had made a TikTok, like, the day they found it. And they were like, we're sitting here waiting for the cops.
Yep.
Freakish. I don't think so.
That's the thing. If I was going to do it, like, my intentions would just be so far removed from anything like that. But it does still freak me out. I've gone on and, like, just tried to find pins near me and see if it was, like, somewhere that I could safely get to. Mm-hmm. But it always gives me pins that are, like, on private property. Like, it literally puts me in somebody's backyard. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Don't like that.
Yeah.
Share with us if you've done the Randonautica, the randonauting.
Yes.
Share with us your experiences. Have you had good ones? Have you had weird ones?
We so intriguing. I really think it's so interesting.
I questioned Ryan about it because Ryan has a degree in physics. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it says it uses quantum points. And Ryan was like, I don't know if that even means anything. I think people just put quantum in front of stuff because they think it's going to sound like fancy and scientific.
Makes them sound smart.
Yeah. He's like, quantum doesn't mean what people think it means.
Right.
Back to this body. Body in a ditch. The police come. He like found a police officer and was like, hey, I just found a body. Mm-hmm. And hello. I have been visited by a dog. So they start investigating the body. And they find that it is 14-year-old Bobby Franks.
Oh.
Bobby was the son of a wealthy Chicago businessman, and he had gone missing earlier in the day.
Oh, wow. So it was real fresh.
Yes. Like.
That sounds gross. I shouldn't have referred to a child as that. Oh, I feel yucky now.
Well, at this point, it's a corpse.
Like a fresh crime scene. I don't mean it like that, but it felt yucky after I said it.
Well, I know what you mean, though.
Yeah.
I think, like, at this point, it wasn't Bobby, it was Bobby's body.
Right.
And it was a fresh killing.
Yeah.
They start looking into it, and they found that this is going to get a little graphic, so if that's not what you're about, skip forward like 30 seconds. Apparently in an attempt to conceal, like, his identity, whoever had killed him poured hydrochloric acid onto his face.
Oh, wow.
Also onto his abdomen and onto his genitals.
Oh.
The idea with the genitals was that Bobby Franks' family was Jewish, so he was circumcised.
That's just...
So they were trying to hide that he was Jewish.
Wow.
Yeah. They found a bunched up rag in his throat and sharp, like, evidence of blows to the head with a sharp implement that had knocked him unconscious. So it's essentially whoever killed him hit him in the head with something sharp that knocked him out. Then they stuffed a rag in his throat and he asphyxiated.
Right.
Then they poured acid on him.
Wow.
So they start looking around to see, like, what else is around on the crime scene. And they found a pair of eyeglasses nearby.
Okay.
Let's go to your slides here.
Yes.
If you go to your first slide, that day, the Franks family had received a phone call from a man calling himself George Johnson. And he told them that he had stolen Bobby and that he would be sending information for a ransom because the Franks family was very wealthy. So what you see here is the ransom note that was sent. I wrote onto the side there, like, what it says because it was typed, and because the first picture I found of this, it was a little blurry. You can pretty much read it here, but these instructions are like...
They're weird.
They're They're long and windy, so I'll read it for those of you at home who aren't looking at it. First of all, the outside says, Mr. Jacob Franks, should anyone else find this note, please leave it alone. This letter is very important. Then on the inside, it says, Dear Sir, proceed immediately to the back platform of the train. Watch the east side of the track. Have your package ready. Look for the first large red brick factory situated immediately adjoining the tracks on the east. On top of this factory is a large black water tower with the word champion written on it. Wait until you have completely passed the south end of the factory. Count 5 very rapidly. And then immediately throw the package as far east as you can. Remember that this is the only chance to recover your son. Yours truly, George Johnson.
This sounds like not the first letter.
Well, they had made a phone call.
That's true. That's right. You did just say that.
They had received a phone call. They said, we're looking to get a ransom. I did not write down what the ransom amount was. I'll explain later why that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it obviously doesn't matter.
Yeah, beside the point that they killed him anyway, so.
Yes. So there's the ransom note. And then the next picture is Bobby. And these are Bobby's friends from the Harvard school. It wasn't like actually Harvard. The Harvard School for Boys. These were some of his friends that were his pallbearers at his funeral.
Yeah. This is like a very insensitive moment, but I don't know if you've seen the trend on TikTok where it's like, if you died today, what 6 of your friends would carry your casket? And everybody's like, 6?
Yeah.
I don't have 6 friends.
I have 6 friends, but I don't know if they could lift me.
No. Well, and not because of you, but just because we are ill.
We're weak, ill, you know.
It would literally kill Brittany, I think.
Yeah. I like the thing that's like, when I die, I want everyone that I ever worked with on a group project to lower me into my grave so they can let me down one last time. Uh-huh.
Everyone except Sam.
Everyone except Sam. Good.
Yeah.
Sam.
I know.
I don't even remember his last name.
Me neither. It's okay.
Sam was the best group partner we ever had.
In college. Oh, good times.
I was just talking about our college experience today. I was telling a girl I work with who's a Penn State intern. Mm-hmm. She'll be graduating in the spring, and we were discussing spam calls.
Oh my God, you didn't.
So I was telling her about your spam calls and how they were happening right when you almost didn't get to graduate.
That was such a bad day.
Please tell the people.
So the way that our college worked was, and I don't know if this is standard or not, I've only been to one college in my life. So the semester before you were set to graduate, you had to fill out paperwork, like you had to apply to graduate so that they could look at your credits and everything and make sure everything was kosher and like good to go. Well, I had put in my paperwork, because what you do is you have to give it to your advisor, and then your advisor has to sign it, and then your advisor hands it in. So I had done all of my parts. I had a major and 2 minors, so I had already gotten my advisors for my minors to sign it, and then I had given it to my advisor for my major. He was like the last piece of the puzzle, and everything should be fine at that point. Like, they just tell you, like, hand it in, and then on this day, go to the college bookstore to pick up your cap and gown. And like, your honors cords.
Or cords, yeah.
Yeah. So I went to get it, and of course, they'll sell anybody a cap and gown, but for the honors cords, they have a list. So when I went to pick up my cords, thank God I qualified for cords, because if I didn't, I never would have known. Mm-hmm. They were like, your name's not on the list. I was like, what do you mean my name is not on the list? Here, my advisor just didn't turn in my paperwork. And so I didn't know if it was way past the deadline. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know.
It was like in a couple weeks.
It was months past. Like, I was supposed to graduate in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I was just having like a full-on meltdown, because, I mean, come on, who doesn't want to like graduate and get on with that? I was thinking I'm going to have to pay tuition for another semester, like all this stuff.
Yes.
And I had been getting those stupid calls where it's like, oh, you have a virus on your computer, like download
I'm Andy
this.
from Microsoft.
Yeah. like, download this program so we can fix your virus on your computer, and then they, like, break into your computer and get your passwords and stuff. And I had been getting them for so long, and we were in the middle of one of the cafeterias, and I'm having a full-blown meltdown, and I'm a mellow person. Like, I'm very...
scared everyone.
I terrified everyone, because I get this call, and I picked up, and I lost my mind. I was just screaming at them, like, don't ever effing call me again. Just, like, totally lost it. Just, I was so stressed. I was like, this is not what I need right now. And I think you could have heard a pin drop in that cafeteria at that point, but it was like... And they still called me after that.
Yeah, that was my favorite part. I was telling my coworker, I was like, and then finally the way that it ended was that they called her and Liz said, listen, I know this is a scam.
Oh,
and
my God.
they said, ma'am,
that's what
this is a scam.
That's what the breaking point was. I forgot because I was chill at first, and I said, look, I know this is a scam. Just take me off your list. Like, it's not going to work for me. And they said to me, ma'am, you know this is a scam, but you won't tell anyone else it's a scam, right? Like, wink, wink, I'm your buddy. And that was when I lost it. You're totally right. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to tell everyone I know that it's a scam. Like, all this. I was like, are you stupid?
But Liz did get to graduate.
I did get to graduate on time. It was so weird because, like, the registrar's office was like, oh, yeah, this happens all the time. You're fine. I was like, this shouldn't be happening all the time.
But then when I graduated a semester later, I had to turn in my own application. And we were like, I wonder why.
Right. Like, maybe it was happening a few too many times.
Yeah. And when I went to get my cap and gown, I got my cap and gown. And then they said, and will you be getting honors cords? And I laughed out loud and said, no. Like,
that's okay.
Don't be silly.
That's all right. You made it in the end.
I sure did. C's get degrees.
D's get degrees, ma'am.
Yeah. But they don't get you into grad school. Just remember that.
That's true.
So then your next slide here is the eyeglasses. Back to the murder.
So, hold on real quick. Where were these eyeglasses again?
They were found near the body.
Okay.
They were not Bobby's, though.
Okay.
So they know that they're not his. And they were like a pretty normal prescription and frame style. Like, people, they're very Otto Sandhuber style glasses. But what happened was they started talking to, like, his neighbors and his family members and stuff like that. And there was a man, a boy, really. He wasn't an adult yet. But there was a person named Nathan Leopold.
Okay.
Nathan Leopold was friends with Richard Loeb. Richard Loeb lived across the street from Bobby and was also his second cousin.
Okay.
Loeb didn't have a lot to say to the police. They were 18 and 19 respectively. Loeb didn't have a lot to say to the police. He just kind of like did his thing. Leopold talked a lot to the police about this. He would give them theories. He was, you know...
Sketch.
Listen, don't worry about it. If you have a theory, tell the police. I think we should send in a swarm of bees after them.
A swarm of bees?
Yeah, remember from the...
murder hornets, or...
No, from the Stockholm Syndrome episode.
Oh my God,
where the public was offering hostage negotiation tips.
That was such a ridiculous idea that I just blocked it out.
It's just gone.
It's gone.
He even told one detective, and I'm gonna say it. He does swear, but these are his words and not mine. Just for the people listening. He said, quote, "If I were to ever murder anybody, it would be just such a cocky little son of a bitch as Bobby Franks."
Well, that's not incriminating at all.
Yeah, and like, yo, a kid's dead.
A child.
Yeah, a 14-year-old. What the heck, dude? So, they start looking into these classes because they're like the big piece of physical evidence.
Right.
And they find that, like, even though the prescription is common and the glasses style is common, like the frame style, they have these weird hinges. I don't know what kind of weird hinges. I don't know if it was like the kind that go like out as well as in, if that makes sense. Like the bendy kind. I don't know.
It doesn't look like it.
I don't know what their deal is, but they were so special, these hinges, that only 3 people in the Chicago area had glasses like that.
Oh my gosh.
Do you want to guess who had special hinged glasses?
Mister, if I was gonna kill somebody.
Yep. Rude. Leopold. An idiot.
A big idiot.
So here's where it gets a little ironic. Okay? Remember that he's a big idiot.
We gonna get a little Alanis Morissette up in here?
Yeah, there was actually rain on his wedding day.
Oof.
Just kidding. He never got to get married. So they were like, hey, why were your glasses with this body? And he was like, well, I was out there bird watching. Because he was like an intellectual. I'll explain it when we jump backwards.
Okay, sure.
But, spoiler alert, we're going to talk more about this guy.
Oh, I'm sure.
He was like, I was on a bird watching trip last weekend. Maybe they fell out of my pocket.
And you just don't know that your glasses are gone because you can see perfectly, or...
I think they were like reading glasses. He was like, what's that called? Farsighted? Nearsighted? Which is which?
If you are farsighted, you use readers.
So that means you can see far away.
Correct.
So I am nearsighted.
As am I. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I believe they were like readers because he was doing a lot of reading.
Okay.
Because he was the literal worst.
Yeah.
Anyway. So they actually picked up Leopold and Loeb.
Mm-hmm.
They brought them in. And they were like, okay, do you have an alibi for this night? The 29th of May?
Reasonable request.
Exactly. And Leopold was like, yeah, we were cruising around the neighborhood in my car, picking up chicks. And they were like, oh, what were these chicks' names? And they were like, oh, and they gave some like first names. And then they were like, okay, like, do they have last names so we could like check this? Well, we dropped them off at we dropped them off near a golf course before we learned their last name.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, you just like cruise around, find some chicks, learn their first names, and then drop them off and leave.
Drive them 10 miles from home and leave them there. Like,
they
what?
wanted to go golfing by themselves, these women in the 20s.
In the evening. Oh
yeah.
My God.
They asked... These guys were, like, rich. They sucked.
I can tell.
So they talked to the chauffeur that was employed by Leopold's family, and he said the car was broken. I was fixing the car that night. So they couldn't have been cruising around picking up chicks, because I was fixing the car. And that was also confirmed by the chauffeur's wife.
Right. Cocky, but not smart.
Well, more like, this is going to be the difference between wisdom and intelligence. Yeah?
Yeah.
So after talking to these boys for a while, Loeb, the cousin, finally was just like, okay, like, yeah, it was us. He confesses. But he kind of puts all of the onus on Leopold.
That's typical.
And now, we're going to go back and see, why did they do this? What did they do?
They clearly had a grudge.
Remember that. You are so good at segues, my dear.
Aw. I'm just thinking, like, you don't just call... I mean, like, I get it. 14-year-old boys can be...
the words.
Yeah. But your neighbor and cousin was just murdered. And you're calling him names, bro?
Your best friend.
Yeah, okay,
He didn't call him names, but his best friend did.
Right, but still, like, wouldn't you want to tread lightly on a sensitive subject like that? So clearly, we've got animosity.
Yeah. Keep that in your brain.
It's there.
Remember that. So, jumping back, we've got Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb. Nathan Leopold was born in 1904 in Chicago. Parents were very wealthy. He claimed that he spoke his first words at the age of 4 months. He was like a child prodigy. And those words were anti-disestablishmentarianism.
It's like those stupid memes where the kid says something like, "Mommy, why can't people just see the differences and love each other? My 2-year-old just said that."
Yeah, I asked my 2-year-old why communism wouldn't work, and he gave like a dissertation.
Yeah. It's like, what did we call her? Alexis's kids.
Alexis and her children.
If you know, you know.
If you missed Alexis the liar, our favorite pathological liar,
Alexis. I think we called her Alexis.
If we didn't, let us know what her name was.
Yeah.
So yeah, he claimed to be like this child prodigy. He went to the University of Chicago, and he had planned to go to law school after that. Mm-hmm. He allegedly studied 15 languages. He claimed to speak 5 of them fluently, and this is honestly like the worst part about him. Mm-hmm. He was really into ornithology, which is the study of terrible, terrible birds.
Oh.
So his claim that he was bird watching like fits with the rest of his life, but like if somebody tells you they're really into bird watching, really into ornithology, like throw the whole man away.
You're so biased.
I can't imagine why anyone would want to devote that much time to terrible, terrible birds.
Oh, poor Hannah. What do the birds ever do to you?
They're unpredictable. Chickens especially. Unpredictable.
That's because chickens are so stupid.
They just they'll run at you, they'll hit you, they'll stab you. They're the worst. So chickens,
does your chicken have a shank?
They've got sharp spurs and talons. So first of all, chickens are unpredictable.
Yeah.
As I've said before, owls, they know too much. They have these, if you look into an owl's eyes, you will see ancient wisdom that it should not have.
I love going through this with you. Keep going.
I don't know why they have it. I don't know why they're sharing it. What kind of normal creature can turn its head the whole way around? What kind of normal creature pukes up just like mouse bones in a bunch of hair? It's yucky.
That is yucky.
They're yucky. Have you ever seen a little owl, like a freshly birthed one?
No.
They're disgusting. And they do that, owls do that weird thing where they like try to hypnotize you. They go in like circles. You know what I'm talking about. They're
do, yeah.
Awful. Owls are the worst. Welcome to my owl slander podcast. I don't mind little birds. I don't mind
canaries and stuff.
I don't mind like parakeets.
Yeah.
I don't even mind like. I kind of am freaked out by like macaws and stuff that are like big and have like sharp beaks.
But you can't get behind a bird who knows more than you.
Absolutely not. I can't. But the thing is, I can't get behind a bird that knows more than me, or a chicken who basically, if you shook it, you could hear its brain rattle in its head.
Like a little walnut.
If they moved, do you ever see the thing where somebody holds a chicken and they move it around and its head is like a steady cam?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What is up with that?
I don't know. Couldn't tell ya.
They are like, birds are like the nearest thing we have to dinosaurs. I was watching Dr. T Lone Star Vet, and she was taking care of an emu, and I was like, no, sir. No, thank you. Not in this house. They would have called me and been like, hi, my emu's sick. And I would have been like, that sucks. Have you thought about not having one? Hazel.
She's upset by the slander.
She doesn't like birds either.
How do you know?
I've seen how she acts. Hazel. So he was a terrible, terrible bird man. Mm-hmm. He specifically worked with Kirtland warblers and like watched cowbirds, which I guess like get into nests and like do bad things to eggs. Mm. I don't know. While I talk about Richard Loeb, if you go to your next slide here, these are them.
And only 3 eyebrows between them.
I know. I know.
So who's who?
2 eyebrows boy.
Okay.
Is Richard Loeb. singular eyebrow, is Nathan Leopold.
And it was Leopold who was the cousin, right?
Loeb is the cousin.
Oh, Loeb is the cousin. All right, I'm going to get this.
Cousin Loeb.
One eyebrow and two eyebrow.
Yes. So, one eyebrow we just talked about. He's the one eyebrow, which looks like birds you might draw in the sky as a child, because he's the terrible, terrible bird man.
Yeah.
Richard Loeb was the younger of the two. He was born in 1905, also in Chicago. His dad was a lawyer and also was formerly the vice president of the Sears Roebuck Company.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, schmancy. He was also super smart. He skipped a bunch of grades in school. He graduated from the University of Michigan at 17.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually doing graduate work at the time that Bobby Franks was murdered.
Okay.
His grad work was in history.
Okay.
He was doing history work.
Better than birds.
Yes, much better than birds. He was much more social than Leopold, and he also played a lot of tennis. Actually, Bobby Franks would come and play tennis at his house.
Mm-hmm.
The two of them became friends more when they were at university.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they knew of each other growing up. They had seen each other a couple times growing up, but, like, they didn't become friends until college.
Sure.
And what they really bonded over was they had a mutual interest in crime. They both really liked crime. Liking crime does not a criminal make.
No, I'm not a criminal.
I'm not a criminal either. I bet that most of the people listening to this right now are not criminals.
Yeah, I would say so.
Except for you. You know who you are.
And she's not talking about me.
We're on to you. Turn yourself in. So they shared an interest in crime, and they also really were into the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche.
Oh, no. Red flag.
Big one. Yeah, especially his concept of the Übermenschen.
Mm-hmm.
So the Superman idea. They were big into that. Leopold. Never good. If your man tells you he's really into Friedrich Nietzsche, throw the whole man away.
Don't walk. Run.
I like birds, crime, and Friedrich Nietzsche.
Sure.
Gone. I'm gone. I'll see you never.
Yeah.
Forget you ever knew me. In a letter that he wrote to Loeb, Leopold wrote, quote, "A Superman is, on account of certain superior qualities inherent in him, exempted from ordinary laws which govern men.
No!
He's not liable for anything he may do."
You've got to be kidding me.
No. Why would I?
Ugh.
Yes, it turns out this whole thing was made up. I made it all up.
Oh,
I don't know who these men are that I put these pictures in these slides. That's actually just me. I've just photoshopped it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they thought of themselves, or at least Leopold thought of himself, as a Superman.
Mm-hmm.
This sort of like, I don't know, man. It feels very eugenics-y.
Oh, 110%.
It feels yucky.
Yeah, it is yucky.
Yes.
There's a reason it's a big red flag.
As far as Leopold saw, they were supermen, and therefore, above the law.
Right.
So they started doing, like, little things, petty theft, vandalizing things, as you do.
Right. Trying to see what they could get away with.
Yeah. They broke into a frat house. I don't know why I said it that way. Broke into a frat house in the University of Michigan, and they stole a bunch of stuff, including a camera, pen knives, and a typewriter.
Okay.
They did some more crime, including arson.
Oh.
Nobody really, noticed or pinned anything on them, which, is, not helping
No.
their
Complex.
state of mind. Yeah, they're like, oh, we can get away with anything.
Yeah.
We burned down a school bus garage. I don't know what they burned down.
Right.
They burned down something. So they start talking about we need to commit the perfect crime.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
See, I already know they did a bad job.
That's why I was like, remember this. So yeah, they're going to commit the perfect crime, but that doesn't necessarily mean... I mean, I assume it means not getting caught.
I would assume.
But,
yeah.
But they really wanted media coverage.
Oh.
That was the main thing. So they're trying to get media attention. They're upset that they haven't... that, like, no one's noticed that they're burning things down and stealing and all of that.
I see.
So what they do is they're like, we're gonna kidnap and murder someone.
That's such a major leap.
Well, so you remember a couple years ago, the kid that had, like, all those DUIs, like, killed people, and they said they, like, tried to claim it was affluenza?
No. Oh.
You don't remember this?
No.
Oh, okay. I will explain. There was a kid, he had DUI, he was, like, under the influence, he killed people with his vehicle, and they tried to say that it was because he was so spoiled and rich that he had never, like, had consequences.
That makes me sick.
Yeah, it gets so much worse. It's worse, and I'm not really going to get into it because it's a way more modern crime than we ever talk about, so I don't really want to, like, derail us with that, but this is sort of along the same lines of these, like, bored, rich jerks.
And I have to admit, like, looking at their pictures, the thought did cross my mind, like, these look like two people who have never been in trouble because mommy and daddy just fix it.
Yes. Exactly. They've also never been to an esthetician to get that eyebrow taken care of.
Nope. Never. Not even once.
If you have a unibrow and you are proud of it and you like it, good on you.
As long as you're not a
murderer. I love that for you. If you're a murderer with a unibrow, I'm going to pick on every single thing about you.
Yep. I mean, I have a unibrow if I don't pluck it. But I'm not a murderer.
I went for how many months without shaving my armpits or my legs, and I loved it.
Uh-huh.
And then I got a job.
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah. I can't really... I mean, I can, but I just would rather not hear from patrons about my hairy armpits. I already hear too much.
Yeah.
They spent 7 months planning this crime.
Wow.
Premeditated.
7 months planning, and you left your glasses at the scene.
It do be like that sometimes. Oh. So they were like, we're going to kill somebody, we're going to kidnap and kill them, and we're going to involve having a ransom because that'll throw the police off our trail.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We don't actually need a ransom because we're rich, but, like, whatever.
I could see them thinking it would help for media attention as well.
Yes. So they typed up the ransom note
using the stolen typewriter?
With the stolen typewriter. And they chose for their weapon a chisel.
Ew.
Yeah, that was the sharp implement that knocked him out.
That's an awful choice.
I know. It's like when you hear stories of people being murdered with a hammer.
Yeah.
That to me is just like, ugh.
Yeah. Icky.
Makes me feel like bad.
Super yucky.
To the point where, like, I also don't like stories where people are killed by things that, like, the murderer found in their house. Mm-hmm. So if there is something that I think someone could use to murder us, I'll hide it instead of leaving it out. And I haven't been able to find our hammer for months.
Is that why you can't find it?
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. Hannah.
I mentioned to Liz the other week about not being able to find my hammer. That's why I've hidden it from murderers and myself.
Oh my god,
myself and murderers.
I would never find anything if I did that.
Well, like, if I'm using a box cutter, I'll, like, hide it once I'm done. I, like, won't leave it out.
Yeah.
So I've done that in places, and I'll find, like, oh, that's where the box cutter is, in the bathroom cabinet. Because I just stashed it somewhere.
This is ridiculous.
I'm the worst. So they start looking for a victim. They've decided on their plan. They've decided on their weapon of choice. They just have to find the right person.
I feel so bad for poor Bobby.
Yeah, me too. They picked Bobby just because.
Yeah.
Like you said before, there was not a grudge. It was not.
They're just psychopaths. Got it.
Yeah. It was just like, this kid is in the area. I know him. He knows us. So he'll come with us. Because he knows us. He trusts us. Which makes it even worse.
So much worse.
On May 21st, 1924, they went and rented a car. Leopold used the name Morton D. Ballard to rent it.
Okay.
They drove around until they found Bobby walking home from school. And they offered him a ride. And he was like, no thanks, at first. Not because he didn't trust them, but because where he was going was like 2 blocks away.
Right.
He was like, I really don't need a ride. I'm like literally going right here.
Yeah.
And they were like, Loeb specifically told him that he had been using a new tennis racket and he wanted to discuss it. Could you, like, get in the car? We'll talk about this tennis racket. Because they both played tennis.
Yeah.
They played tennis with each other a lot. So, like, it's really not that strange.
Yeah. Right.
And, like, a second cousin would be, like, if I'm correct, wouldn't it be the children of his parents' cousins?
It would be his parents' cousin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Bobby and one of his parents had the same mother. Okay. I never know. I'm always like, because then the once removed thing then would be his kids.
Yeah,
right?
it would be the so my dad's cousin is my second cousin. My dad's cousin's kid is my second cousin once removed.
Okay. So yeah, this wasn't like some distant relative.
Right. I mean, I would get in the car with my second cousin.
Yeah, especially who lived across the street from you.
Yeah.
And you played tennis with. Yeah, like it wasn't. The only weird thing was I'm literally going up here.
Right.
Like, I don't need to get in the car.
Right.
But he did, unfortunately. And what happens next, like I always say, there are only 2 people who know what happened next.
Right.
They've given their accounts of it, but what the police think, based on like the evidence and some of the things that were said, is that Leopold was driving and Loeb was in the back seat.
Okay.
Which would have looked totally freaking normal.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Hi, my friend's just chauffeuring me around the town, as one does.
I mean,
that's true.
They are weird.
If he did, and if he being Bobby didn't know Leopold, maybe it would just look, because they had chauffeurs. They were rich.
Yeah.
So maybe it would have just been like, who's this unibrowed chauffeur I've never seen before?
Yeah.
I feel bad for making fun of his unibrow, but only because I don't want to make fun of unibrows in general, his.
Yeah. Yeah, just him.
Who's this man who looks like he deals with terrible, terrible birds?
Yeah.
The worst. Bobby got into the passenger seat.
Interesting.
And, yes. And then Loeb struck him with the chisel from the back seat. Like, he wrapped his arms around his front, hit him with the chisel, and then dragged him into the back seat where he stuffed the rag into his mouth.
Oh, man.
Luckily, the chisel rendered him unconscious. So it's not... I mean, I say that, but...
Right.
He still died, but... I mean, at least...
it was less painful.
Yeah, hopefully it was less of an ordeal. So So the body was on the floorboards, and they drove to Wolf Lake in Hammond, Indiana.
Okay.
Which is like 25 miles south of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
They took all of his clothes off, put him in a culvert where he was found,
Mm-hmm.
and that is when they poured the hydrochloric acid onto him.
Mm-hmm.
This is when they made the phone call.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they are George Johnson.
Right.
Obviously.
Right.
Then they burned his clothes and their clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Cleaned the blood from the vehicle's upholstery because it was a rental.
Right.
And then spent the rest of the evening playing cards.
Sorry, I stubbed my toe.
It's
Ow.
okay. You just look shocked about the cards.
No, I stubbed my toe and I was trying not to, like, yelp.
Just did a murder. Let's play some Egyptian rat slap.
Also, like, the whole rental car gets me, like, that seems like the worst way. I don't know.
It was the 20s, though, so it wasn't like you had to put a credit card on file or whatever.
Yeah, but the blood in the car, that's, like, where I get hung up.
Yeah. The weird thing to me is that they were 18 and 19 and they could rent a car.
It was the 20s.
Yeah. You can't do that now until you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
They also destroyed the typewriter.
Okay.
And they threw it into Jackson Park Lagoon.
I was going to say, did they throw it into the tar pits?
No, they drove to California and threw it in the La Brea tar pit.
Yeah.
No.
And they didn't bury it to to grow a typewriter tree.
No, a book tree.
A book tree. There you go.
No. They destroyed the typewriter. They like pried keys off of it with pliers and like did a bunch of stuff to it. You'll see it later.
Is there really that much like identifying information on a typewriter?
Yes.
I had no
This is actually really interesting. So typewriters all have like individual tells that it's the same typewriter.
Oh.
So this is a whole area of forensics.
Oh,
You'll see like specific brands of typewriter have specific font or like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you'll see like, oh, as you can tell in this ransom letter, not this specific one, but in general, the E sits higher on the line than the rest of them, like those kinds of things. It's very interesting. So yeah, they were actually really smart in destroying the typewriter, but
like
they didn't dispose of it well enough. Yeah. They didn't dispose of the typewriter well enough because police did find it on June 7th in the Jackson Park Lagoon.
Okay.
So this brings us up to the confessions again.
Mm-hmm.
Loeb confessed first. He had said it was all Leopold's idea. Leopold did the killing while he was driving.
Mm-hmm.
Leopold did the opposite. He said, I was driving, Loeb did the killing.
Okay.
It's like that meme of the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So they said, we had been planning this because we wanted a thrill.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to commit the perfect crime.
Right.
And because we're Supermen.
Right.
You know how Superman kills people?
And gets caught?
It's like his whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, they wanted to know what it felt like to kill somebody.
Right.
Essentially. Because they suck.
They do suck. I mean, you already knew they sucked as soon as you heard the bird stuff.
Yeah, as soon as ornithology was mentioned, I was like, hoo, these guys are the worst.
Hoo?
Yeah. Like an owl. Okay, so I'm sure that you've noticed that I've sort of like moved quickly through the crime.
Yeah.
This crime is not necessarily known for the actual event of the crime, but it's more about the trial that came after.
Okay.
So, two things. One, D. James Stone, who runs a YouTube channel called Legal Eagle. He is an attorney who works in Washington, D.C.
I've watched a few of his videos.
I love him.
Yeah, he's good.
He makes videos about, he does some things that are like lawyer reacts to
That's what
like
I've seen.
Law and Order, lawyer reacts to like Legally Blonde, and he's like, well, you wouldn't really be doing this or you wouldn't be doing that. But he also talks about famous crimes and their trials, and he talks a lot about like some of the legality of certain things that are going on in politics at the moment. Like, could this happen? What is the legal precedent for this thing?
Right.
So it's very interesting if you're interested in law. He has also been on other channels that I watch. Like, he was referenced, or he was brought in to comment on the Lindsay Ellis Omegaverse stuff, because like he understands, I believe his specific branch of law that he practices is specifically like copyright law. So he knows, so obviously since they're both content creators, and he happens to also be a practicing lawyer, she brought him in. But he has a video about this, specifically about the trial. So if you're more interested, I'm not going to get into too much about the trial, but if you are interested, I'll link that in the brief. You can go to Legal Eagle and listen to Devin talk about that.
His videos are great. You should definitely check it out. Regardless,
they're very, very well written. If you're interested in crime and you're interested in the law, he's a very interesting one to watch.
You know how I feel about Legally Blonde, so I very much enjoyed the episode about that.
Yes.
Elle Woods is just an icon.
Truly.
Always was. Always will be. Before Harvard.
The
after
ones in
Harvard.
future. The ones in future Woods.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so if you go to your next slide.
Yes.
Because they were so rich, they were able to get a defense attorney named Clarence Darrow. And he was one of the most renowned criminal defense lawyers in the country. He was like a star. He was the Johnny Cochran of his day. I don't know who I was going to say.
The Edgar Snyder of his day.
He was the Edgar Snyder of his day. This was basically in the 1920s in Chicago. These guys are going to be hanged.
Oh, God. That escalated quickly.
Yeah, like, they're going to be given the death penalty for this.
I, like, forget about how recently sentencing has changed.
People?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. Clarence Darrow took this case because he was opposed to capital punishment.
Fair enough.
Basically everybody knew this was, in the words of Roxy from Chicago, what do you mean a hanging case? This was like a big deal. So what he did was he had them plead guilty.
Oh.
With the idea that they'll plead guilty, I can't prove that they didn't do it. But I can hopefully, if they can, like, cooperate,
right,
I can get them to not be killed by the state.
Right.
Originally, they were like, they're gonna say that they're crazy. They're gonna do a not guilty by reason of insanity.
Which, I mean, like, honestly, I feel like that they'd almost have a case for it, because...
But what insanity?
Like the whole Superman thing.
But they're not insane. They're completely within, and I think they would, because they're such idiots and because they are so smart, I think they would be, like, upset if you said they were insane.
Good.
I know. I live to upset people like this.
Yeah, honestly. Bring it on. Yeah.
So instead, he had them plead guilty, hoping to just...
Like a plea deal or whatever.
They would just get life imprisonment. Even though they weren't doing a not guilty by reason of insanity, they did do some insanity-style stuff. They talked about, like, they did a lot of psychiatric stuff. They talked about childhood neglect. They talked about... They claimed that Nathan Leopold had been sexually abused by a governess. Yeah. They basically... had all this stuff. He had somebody come up and say that they had dysfunctional endocrine glands.
Sure, okay.
Which, like, You have Hashimoto's. Wouldn't you technically have a dysfunctional endocrine gland?
Yeah, my thyroid. That is an
Murderer?
endocrine gland. No. That's the thing. Like, I would never, ever, ever belittle, like, the experience of a sexual assault survivor or victim.
Mm-hmm.
But that does not ever justify
Murdering
something like
somebody.
this. No.
Especially murdering somebody for no reason
It's
other
not
than
it's not
you
an
wanted to.
excuse.
No.
It's one of those things where it just, like, it gives valid cases a bad name.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So, another thing that happened here, and you can see on the right, there is Clarence Darrow. He's sitting.
Mm-hmm.
He has his arm, like, draped over the bench.
Yeah.
He's up with the judge. He gave a 12-hour-long speech.
This is not the first time that I've heard of this happening, and I just...
We had one a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, why? I don't understand. I don't think I could talk for 12 hours about the thing I'm most passionate about, let alone...
I could.
Oh, I could not.
First of all, as we see from this podcast, I'm a talker.
You are. You're a special breed of talker, and the best way I love you. I couldn't do it.
Like I said in my maid of honor speech, the very first thing I said when I stood up at Elizabeth's wedding for my maid of honor speech was, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Hannah. I'm Elizabeth's best friend from college. For those of you who do know me, don't worry, I have written this down.
Yeah.
Because I was like, if I don't, I'll be here all day just talking about Liz.
Yep. There was, like, a whole joke about, like, how Scott's best man speech would be so short and you were going to make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he gave this 12-hour-long speech. Basically was like, these two guys are so youthful and they're immature. Like, they haven't learned yet. And capital punishment is, he maligned, like, corporal punishment. He, like, did a whole thing. Just really went hard. There's a huge, like, excerpt of it that you can find on Wikipedia. I always put the Wikipedia, if there is one, in the brief. But if you want to see parts of his speech, they're in there. If you go to your next slide...
Oh.
That is the typewriter. Was brought in for evidence. So it is all destroyed. You can see it's missing keys. It's got, like, the pieces pried off.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
It
looks a mess. And also, because of the media attention that was gained by this case, your next slide here, those are all photographers sitting in the courtroom to take pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Old-timey photographers. 1920s photographers. Yeah. So, I just thought that was neat.
Yeah.
You never really get to see the people taking the pictures.
Right.
So, they did not receive the death penalty. They didn't have to have a jury. This was all like a sentencing hearing, basically.
Yeah.
They didn't have a jury, they just had a judge.
I mean, makes sense since they just pled guilty.
Yeah, exactly. So for those of you who wonder, like, what happens if you just plead guilty? You end up going to a sentencing hearing. So you have a hearing, you still have, like, a trial, but it's just to see how long you're going to be in jail or if you're going to die, I guess. It took him 12 days, but he sentenced both of them to life imprisonment and an additional 99 years.
Mm.
The 99 years was for the kidnapping.
Wow. It's a lot for kidnapping.
They don't mess around.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, the defense attorney trying to be like, they're young, they don't understand. They're adults.
Mm-hmm.
They're 19 when this occurred. They were, what, 18 and 19, you said?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I knew at 18 and 19 don't kill people.
Yeah, honestly. And it's the 20s, so they're even more adult, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your next slide here that you're on is their mugshots. They obviously got their heads shaved because it was the 20s and they were in jail.
Not their eyebrows.
Not their eyebrows. So we can still tell them apart.
Yeah.
they were held at the same prison at first, and they, like, kept them apart, but then Leopold was transferred to Stateville Penitentiary, while Loeb was at Joliet Prison and then got transferred there as well.
Mm-hmm.
While they were at Stateville Penitentiary, they worked on the school system and, like, added all this curriculum to the prison school system because they were intelligent boys.
Right.
Yeah. Then, in January of 1936, Loeb, so Richard Loeb, was attacked by a fellow inmate with a straight razor in the showers.
Oh, wow.
And he died in the prison hospital.
Wow.
It was claimed that Loeb had assaulted his attacker, but his attacker was unharmed, and Loeb had sustained more than 50 wounds.
Oh my god.
Yes. His throat had been slashed from behind.
Jeez.
They claimed that Loeb had propositioned his murderer.
Uh-huh.
And that we don't know if that happened.
Yeah.
He was killed, but his murderer was acquitted. He was tried and acquitted of the murder.
Interesting.
Like, whole thing. Yeah. Leopold, meanwhile, was really depressed after Loeb died because they were there together.
Right.
He was a model prisoner. He made all these contributions. He reorganized the prison library, changed the school system, taught all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's basically like Andy Dufresne, if you've ever seen Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
He's like revamping how everything is. So in the 50s, a guy that he went to college with named Meyer Levin came to him and said, I want to write a book about this. I want your help. And he was like, I don't want this to be fictionalized.
Fair.
But we can write a memoir. And Levin didn't like that, so he left and just wrote it himself.
Jeez.
Yeah. He titled the novel Compulsion.
Okay.
And it is like I said, it's a fiction book. Sorry.
Right.
It's fiction. And then later, Leopold said that reading his book, quote, made him physically sick. More than once I had to lay the book down and wait for the nausea to subside. I felt as I suppose a man would feel if he were exposed stark naked under a strong spotlight before a large audience, unquote.
I mean, it's hard to feel bad for him.
It is hard to feel bad. But at this point, he had grown. It had been like over 20 years at this point. And so he started trying to win parole.
Uh-huh. It's to me, it seems like a real long shot, but at this point...
Yeah. Well, as part of that, like, campaign, he wrote an autobiography.
Okay.
He called it Life Plus 99 Years.
Oh.
I'm just going to come out now and say I did not read any books. I did not watch any films. I am the worst researcher ever. He didn't talk about the murder. He didn't talk about his childhood. He starts with, like, immediately after the murder.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people hated him for this. They were like, you didn't tell anything, and you're just trying to make your image look better.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
like you didn't.
Yeah.
I think they saw it as, like, by not talking about the murder, he was not taking responsibility for it. Not that people were definitely clamoring to hear, like, gory details.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I'm sure they wanted the details, but also, don't you think living out his life sentence and pleading guilty is him owning up to it?
Yeah.
Like, come on, people.
Yeah.
I hate to give him credit, but...
Then they decided they were going to, in 1959, they were going to make a movie about compulsion.
Okay.
Movie based on the book. He tried to stop it, but it went through anyway.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. And then, after 33 years of trying to get paroled, in 1958, in March, Leopold was finally released.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm a little shocked.
I'm not.
No?
I am not because he was very young when he committed the crime, and then he sort of, like, grew up in prison, and everything that he did in prison was good.
Yeah, so
like,
good.
He was a model prisoner, but also he, like, aided other prisoners. It's, like, it's hard to look at this guy in, like, a good way, but, like, everything he did after being a terrible murderer
was as good as it could have been.
Yeah. He tried to set up a foundation that would have been funded by the royalties from his autobiography, and that would have been to, quote, aid emotionally disturbed, retarded, or delinquent youths.
Oh, jeez.
Unquote. Remember, this was in the 50s, so that word was more appropriate then, or more accepted then.
Right.
But the state of Illinois said that he wasn't allowed to do that because it would violate his parole. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's really weird.
I'm not sure why. He ended up going to Puerto Rico and teaching a lot there and doing a lot of, like, medical work there.
Okay.
He met a woman in Puerto Rico who was widowed. She was a florist. He married her. He got his bachelor's degree there. If you go to your next slide, this is him later in life. So that's him teaching other inmates, and that looks like ancient Greek to me. It's all Greek to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
It looks like Greek, but that's him teaching.
And that's in Puerto Rico?
That's in the prison.
Oh. Yeah.
That you can see they're all, like, grown men in jumpsuits.
Yeah.
He died in 1971 at the age of 66 of a diabetes-related heart attack. Wikipedia also says that his corneas were donated.
Oh, throwback.
I thought so, too. So we talked about, can you donate eyes? Yes, you can.
At least he wasn't creepy about it.
He was not. He was not using it to just not be killed.
Right.
If you go to your next slide here, Alfred Hitchcock made a movie version of a play called Rope that is a fictionalized version of this case. It was written in 1929 by Patrick Hamilton, and then in 1948, Alfred Hitchcock made the movie. But it's the same sort of idea, but it's not like Leopold and Loeb, this person played by this person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The middle one there is Compulsion, the movie that was made based on the book. It's the same, where it's not Leopold and Loeb, but whatever. It's the same story.
Right.
And then the one on the far right there is called Swoon. Swoon was made in the 90s by a man named Tom Kalin. And he specifically wanted to make this particular story because, one, it is actually like a fictionalized version of the real thing, but they're still their names, right? Oh, one more thing. Compulsion stars, like, all of these are pretty, except for Swoon, are pretty star-studded. Like, Rope has Jimmy Stewart in it.
Right.
But Compulsion, the quote, Clarence Darrow character, the, like, defense attorney, is played by Orson Welles.
I just saw that on the poster. I was like, it's going to be Orson Welles.
Yeah. But back to Tom Kalin. Tom Kalin made Swoon because it is believed, and this comes from a couple different sources, it is believed that Leopold and Loeb were homosexual and that they were lovers. And so his whole thing was, I want to make a movie that talks about their homosexuality, because none of these other ones obviously did, because they would be during the Hays Code.
Right.
But I want to make it where they are gay and they are lovers, but that's not why they're killing.
Well,
he wanted it to definitely be like a separate thing. There's also a book by Jordan Schildkraut called Murder Most Queer, where he talks about changing attitudes toward homosexuality in various theatrical and cinematic representations of the Leopold and Loeb case. So the reason that people think they were gay is for two reasons. One, they found some letters that they wrote to each other that kind of like read like love letters.
Mm-hmm.
And allegedly, I can only find this in a couple sources, but allegedly they had both admitted to the press to being homosexual, but I just can't imagine that in the 20s.
Yeah, I can't imagine that either.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's another one of those, like, they might have been gay. I don't know.
Especially not coming from, like, affluent families. It just seems unlikely.
I mean, they might have been gay.
Right, but I don't think
they would admit it.
Right, exactly.
But, like the Parker and Holm case, if you're going to admit to murder,
right,
you may as well admit to everything else.
Right. Yeah. What do you have to lose at that point?
Right. But that is Leopold and Loeb.
Senseless.
Perfectly senseless.
Just absolutely senseless.
When you said, oh, they must have a grudge, I was just like, nope, not at all. No, he's just there. Sad.
What a weird thing to say about somebody if you don't have a grudge.
Yeah.
Like do you like maybe he was trying to, you know, make like, oh well, there was a reputation, there were other people out to get him or something. It's the only reason I think
that's why.
Yeah. It's a bummer.
It is a bummer. And with that, we need a palate cleanser.
Yes,
so let's
we
talk
do.
about what we're reading, what we're recommending.
Yes, I'm not reading anything, so I'm just pulling up my Goodreads list to recommend.
Do you want me to talk?
Oh no, I'm just going to pick one at random here. I am going to recommend today an oldie but goodie. It's not like that old, but it is Sarah's Key by Tatiana de Rosney.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a fictional book that it takes place in Paris, and it is about a family who is round up during, I'm gonna like totally ruin this. It's a historic event that happened in Paris in the 40s. The Veldiv roundup.
Okay.
Which was an occasion where the French police rounded up Jews and handed them over to the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes place both in the 40s and in like quote unquote present day. So you've got two separate people. The present day person is a journalist who is researching the story, and then you have the past family who's actually going through it.
Oof.
So yeah, it is very emotional, but it is a really good read.
Mm-hmm.
So
it sounds like something you would enjoy.
It's fiction, but it is based on true events. So yeah, it's right up my alley.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to recommend today. It's really good. It's one of the few books I've read more than once.
Ooh.
So yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean twice, but you know I don't do that.
Yeah, one time I was cleaning my house and like getting rid of things, and Liz was like, well, why don't you like go sort through your books, like get rid of some of those books. And I was like, because I like to reread books and I like to loan books to people, and you can't do that if you don't have them.
That's one of those things, like, I don't care to even own most books because I just read them once and I'm good. I'll just get them from the library.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've done, though, you know this too, I've read books from the library and then bought them.
I've done that. I have done that a couple of times.
Ugh, I just did that with Spinning Silver because I had to own it.
Yeah, I keep looking because I still have Witches of New York that you lent me, and I keep looking at it, and I haven't started it yet. But
it's so good.
Yeah.
I finally finished Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, good.
Ryan is thrilled because every time we get in the car, my phone automatically, it automatically connects to Bluetooth.
Yeah.
And it just starts where I left off.
Uh-huh.
And he always goes to turn off the sound, and I'm always like, stop it, we're listening to this.
Oh, no.
But now we're not listening to Pride and Prejudice anymore. But
yeah.
If you have not read Pride and Prejudice,
I haven't.
You should read it. You should read it. Like, this is it's my recommendation for this week is You should read it. It is romantic. It is funny. It is, parts of it are infuriating. It's got lots of different kinds of characters that are really well written. You can really tell that Jane Austen took time to like figure out the personalities of each of her characters.
That's so nice.
It's very nice. There's a lot of characters, but once you know who's who, it's like not that big of a deal. And I know that certain people are like, I can't like keep up with the like old-timey English because it is Edwardian England. But it's so good. It was just like, there were so many parts of it that were just so, there was such like romantic tension, or like just like even parts of it are sort of like action-y. It's more than just the story of like Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy. Like there's many other characters and many other subplots happening. I specifically wanted to finish it because I want to watch the movie, but I wanted to read the book first.
Right, yeah.
But now that I've done it, I can treat myself to the movie.
It's
and
so
I'm
funny.
still... No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I've never read it. I've never watched any of the movies just because I just don't have a stake in it, you know? But I will watch every historical costumer talk about whether or not the costumes in the movies are historically accurate or not.
I'm also currently still reading. I'm about halfway through The Half-Drowned King. I am very much enjoying it.
Good.
It is a series, but it's not a super well-known series, so like our library doesn't have it.
Oh.
None of the libraries in our branch have it.
You've got to look into your library's item requisition.
Digital. Oh yeah, well I know who does it. Like I know the people who do it. But this is probably one of those things that I'm gonna want to just get the physical books and have them because I really like it. I said before, it is a book that is a historic fiction, and it is set during the Iron Age in Norway, so it's the Vikings, and I love it very, very much. It is very well researched.
Yeah.
It is, you can tell that the woman who wrote it really knows her stuff.
That's good.
And like really paid attention to what things were important to talk about, and it's even good if like you want to learn some things about like what the society was like. It has a lot of stuff in there that is historically accurate.
Sure.
So I'm really enjoying it.
Are you also recommending that today or no? We're waiting on that. Okay.
Not yet.
We'll wait on it.
I mean, it can go in the list, but like I'm not recommending it yet.
I'll wait.
All right, Elizabeth.
Yes, Hannah.
Where can the people find us?
We are Briefcase Crimes across all platforms, including Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. You can listen to full episodes anywhere that you normally listen to your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If you would like to support us monetarily, you can buy us a coffee on ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/briefcasecrimes. Or you can purchase any of our book recommendations or the books that we talk about on the podcast from our link to our bookshop.org affiliate page. They support local bookstores by donating 75% of profits to them, and they support us with a small percentage of profits through that affiliate link as well. And you can find that link, as well as all of the others, in our description for the episode and our bios.
Hooray!
Yay! Exciting.
When I do buy the series of the Half-Drowned King, I will probably get it from bookshop.org.
Yeah. It's nice if you can, because they have most anything that you can get on Amazon, you know, but especially right now with all the COVID stuff that's happening, our local stores are going to be affected more than ever with the holiday season coming up. So trying to support our local businesses is so important, especially because I think Jeff Bezos has made enough money over COVID.
Exactly.
I think, if you're able to support local, I think right now is the most important time to do that.
Yeah.
I know I personally am trying to buy Christmas gifts from Etsy and other places like that.
Yeah. As somebody who sells online and also freelances.
Yeah.
If you're going to spend like $50 somewhere, $50 to a small business or somebody who's selling online means so much more than Jeff Bezos.
So much more.
Like, they're going to appreciate it so much more than Jeff Bezos isn't even going to notice.
Yeah, and I mean, A, Jeff Bezos isn't going to notice, and B, if we don't support our local shops now when it's really, really needed, they're not going to be around for us. Good old capitalism at its finest.
And I asked my 5-year-old dog why capitalism was bad, and
That's right.
Went off on a retort.
Yep.
Would you like to wrap this up?
Yes, I would. Thank you all so much for listening today.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.